What kind of leader can stay in power for so long that an entire generation grows up knowing only his voice? Well, today we're diving right into the story of Robert Menzies, a leader whose decisions didn't just shape a nation, they pretty much built the very foundations of modern Australia. I mean, how does one person rule a nation for nearly 2 decades? This isn't just a simple question of politics. It's a story of spectacular failure, an even more incredible comeback, and a really, really long hold on power. So let's break down just how he did it. 18 years. Just let that sink in for a moment. In the absolute whirlwind of modern politics, where leaders can come and go in a flash, 18 years it's almost unimaginable. That single number really tells you everything you need to know about the scale of his impact. Okay, so how did Menzies become this political titan? Well, here's the thing. His journey to the top actually began with a pretty dramatic failure. Yeah, his first time in power was anything but easy. So let's back up a bit. Born way back in 1894, Menzies was a standout right from a young age. Super sharp, known for his intellect and just incredible public speaking. His ambition, you could say, carried him pretty quickly through the political ranks. And bam, by 1939, at just 44 years old, he reaches the highest office in the land. But his timing, as we're about to see, well, it couldn't have been worse. Literally, the moment he takes power, the world is teetering on the brink of war. He had to lead this young nation through a massive global crisis. I mean, talk about a test by fire, one that would define and almost completely destroy his career. And here was the fundamental problem, right? The mismatch. See, Menzies was a skilled debater, a brilliant peacetime strategist. But war demands a totally different kind of leader. You need someone who can unify people, not just win an argument. And his style, well, it started to create a lot of friction, and that political division just began to fester. Eventually, the pressure just became too much. He was facing criticism from inside his own government, and he resigned. Now, for most politicians, that would have been it. Game over. But for Menzies, this was just the beginning of his real story. And this is what sets the stage for one of the greatest political comebacks in Australian history. Because Menzies didn't just fade away. He went out into the political wilderness and he meticulously, carefully planned his return. And this part is absolutely crucial. His return wasn't some lucky break. It was a calculated strategy. First, he really studied why he failed. Then he went to work rebuilding his political alliances. And maybe most importantly, he found a new voice. One that spoke directly to the hopes and fears of everyday middle-class Australians. And in 1949, that strategy paid off, big time. He swept back into office, and not just as prime minister, but as the founder of a whole new political force, the Liberal Party. And this was the real start of his record-breaking 18-year rule. So how did he do it? I mean, how did he hold on to that power for so long? This is the part of the story where we see him transform from just another politician into the actual architect of a nation's future. It really came down to a simple but incredibly powerful message that resonated with middle-class families. He promised security in a pretty scary world. He promised the opportunity for work, for housing, and he promised calm, confident leadership. In an age of total instability, what he was really selling was certainty. And you know what? His platform delivered. Under his leadership, Australia experienced this long boom of economic growth. Cities got bigger, new infrastructure was built all over the place, and he invested a ton in universities because he truly believed that education was the key to national strength. Now, on the world stage, he made a really crucial move. He strengthened Australia's alliance with the United States. This was a massive strategic decision that would shape the country's foreign policy for decades to come, especially as those Cold War tensions were really starting to rise. And maybe nothing captures his philosophy better than his own words. He said, leadership is not only policy, it is public trust. Menzies just got it. He understood that political survival wasn't just about having good policies, it was about earning and holding on to that trust year after year after year. So, after nearly 2 decades in power, what is his lasting legacy? Well, this is where the debate really begins, and how we remember Menzies, in a way, becomes a way of understanding Australia itself. And to really understand just how strong his grip on power was, you just have to consider this. He wasn't voted out. In 1966, after all that time, Robert Menzies retired on his own terms. He left office by choice, not by defeat. That's a feat very, very few leaders ever get to achieve. So today, his legacy is really viewed through two main lenses. On the one hand, to some, he's Australia's greatest political strategist, the man who provided stability and shaped the modern economy. But on the other hand, to others, he represents an older Australia, maybe a little too tied to Britain, and a bit resistant to the big social changes that were just around the corner. Which really just leaves us with this one final thought. Look, regardless of how you view his policies, good, bad, or indifferent, his story forces us to ask a really big question. What on earth does it take? What combination of strategy, communication, and just plain timing allows a leader to earn and then keep a nation's trust for nearly an entire generation?